I love coffee, I love tea, I love the Java Jive and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
Hi, and welcome to another Coffee with Connie. I'm here today with Kevin Williams and Katie Tice from Urbatron. And they are working with the town of Brookhaven to create a comprehensive land use plan called Brookhaven 2030. And Kevin, just can you go over what is the purpose of doing a comprehensive land use plan?
Sure, Connie. As you know, the town of Brookhaven has a long history in comprehensive planning, and this, although not technically an update of the 1996 plan, is in a way develops off of it. And the idea behind a comprehensive plan is it's really the foundation document by which a town frames out its future, a framework by which other plans, capital investments, quality of life decision making is made, and it really reflects the character and the movements and the evolution of planning theory of its time. And obviously, over the last 10 years we've seen a lot of changes, such as climate change has come to the fore. And obviously in the last 3 years, another sort of global crisis in terms of, or not crisis perhaps yet, but food and fossil fuels. And so things constantly change. Comprehensive plans must come to address these things and the changing nature of growing populations.
And the type of things that will be addressed in a comprehensive land use plan. I mean, obviously, you spoke about several of the issues facing us, not only as people from Brookhaven, but throughout the United States and throughout the world when we're talking about global warming and climate change. But what kind of things will be addressed that will address those global issues as well as some of our local issues?
I mean, comprehensive plan is like a very stock document. When you go to school, there are just some core components of it that, not only address those issues in sort of a tangential way, but, address really the issues that everybody thinks about every day, which is land use. And that's a core component of a comprehensive plan is, what types of densities, what types of uses, how should they be related and interrelated with one another. And then there are other assets as well that in terms of land use, and maybe Katie, you would talk about some of the environmental, cultural, and open space pieces that we looked at in terms of this plan and are particularly relevant to Brookhaven.
Sure. One of the things that we're looking at really is the water bodies. This is really important because there's a lot of development around these water bodies, and sometimes this can create water quality issues. So that's a really important component, and we're looking at all these various water bodies around Brookhaven. And another thing is groundwater quality, since the water
big issue.
Yes, big issue is groundwater quality, and this, our drinking water is a very important issue that we're looking at. Air quality, especially from considering the transportation, we're looking at transportation issues to our air quality. So how many vehicle miles traveled is there? How many cars are on the road? And what can we do to offset this? Can we use other forms of transportation? So this is a very important issue, and as well as preserving our cultural and historic aspects of Brookhaven. So,
which is, given the 400-year history of the town, and particularly the northern shore, it's such a critical asset, but there are actually assets throughout the town. So, a lot of communities don't have those type of assets. So Brookhaven has, more obviously coastal resources. Great amount of variety of these historic resources, as Katie mentioned. So,
it has an enormous history, and I had lived for a time out west in Oregon and Washington, and it's amazing when you come back and the history dates back to the Pilgrims. I mean, we're talking about going to the South Fork and the North Fork of Long Island. We're talking about, the earliest
inhabited area of the region.
The Dutch and the English in the 1600s.
Right.
So it's the same thing in the Setorkits. You look at some of the bullet holes in some of the old churches and the Revolution. So we have a tremendous history to preserve, and unfortunately that's one of the things that is often neglected, unless it's really put in a plan and codified that these things need to be protected.
Absolutely, and then there are a couple of other things that I failed to mention that I'm sure any Brookhavener knows is a critical thing. It's transportation and traffic.
Absolutely.
And given the fact is we working on this comprehensive plan have pretty much lived a lot of Brookhaven traffic issues, and as well as its transit system.
Right.
Urban Transport's studying the Suffolk County transportation bus system for about the past year as well, and we know that there are a lot of things that need to be done. You have great infrastructure in terms of the train stations. However, you know, all of them except for Ronkonkoma Station don't offer, you know, really direct express type of services. So,
Right.
you know, having the ability to grow the town in a way that's preserves the character of the suburban life, you know, means that the roadway system must be addressed. And we've been looking at that in great detail and found out a lot of interesting things in terms of projecting out to 20 years, looking at the congestion that's going to occur if land use decisions do not change.
Right.
And so we're really blending those two things. For
Right.
a long time, transportation and land use are very separated. You know,
It was almost like transportation planners just reacted to.
Also, you build it and then they fill in.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
it's either one way or another, rather than exactly very, very reactionary. You know, primarily because of availability of capital funds, but also you find in a lot of places, you know, expanding 2-lane roads, which engenders, you know, more development that
Right.
may not be planned in an effective manner. And I think you
Right.
see a lot of the, you know, corridors, 25, Middle Country Road. You know, it's just the land uses there are not really complementary the type of lifestyle that a lot of people indicated in the public outreach process. So traffic is very important. Housing is a critical issue in terms of making sure we have the right supply for the right populations. As you know, you have an aging population throughout the United States. I think we also noted in some of our demographic analysis, you have a decrease in some of that working, you know, post-college era part of your citizenry, which is very important that we find ways to economically allow them to stay in the area and create jobs. So another component is economic development.
Right, and economic development.
So these are some of the major
Yeah, some of the broad
components.
components. I mean, you know, we're talking about a lot of the negative things that have happened as far as land use in Brookhaven, and how that has both affected, I know Katie was talking about the preservation of our water resources, our open space, and then how it affects transportation, you know, throughout the town of Brookhaven. And, you know, what we have seen in the area of open space is that many of our cherished landscapes have disappeared.
Right.
And they've disappeared because of the way we are developing.
Right.
So can you speak to a little bit about that, Katie? I mean, what is a alternative instead of, you know, eating up all of our open
Sure.
space with more development? And our population is growing,
Right.
so we need to plan how we're going to grow,
Exactly.
but we still want to preserve those open spaces.
Exactly. Well, one way is to grow in more compact growth centers, and not necessarily an urbanized form, which some people tend to think this could be, which is higher density or very high buildings, but just being a little bit more compact about your land use so you can preserve more of your natural resources and preserve this what people say sense of place that we're
Right.
used to, like this agrarian culture that we've really used to seeing around Brookhaven. So you can grow in these more compact forms, which have more traditional Main Street type developments that we people
Like
really
a Port Jefferson? or-
Right, as well as the
Yeah.
tradition that you have so well presented, you know, exactly in the Port Jefferson area, in portions of the East Setauket corridor,
Right.
and then it sort of dwindles down as it gets to Stony Brook. It turns into that
Well,
suburban.
we have some on the South Shore also.
Sprawlish,
I mean,
right.
there's
Patch
the
House,
Sayvilles, the
great.
Patch.
Absolutely.
Bellport is a nice
Right.
little village.
A portion of Center Marches,
Yes,
also
yes.
that Main Street area.
Absolutely.
Well, it's about
It's
four
small,
blocks,
but it's- yeah,
6
but
blocks. It's got a real
but it
Main
has
Street.
character.
Absolutely.
Well, that's great character.
What's also really great about this is it's providing the type of development like this downtown development is providing the diversity of housing types you need. So it works on both front. It preserves a lot of open space.
Right.
There are several tools we can use to preserve open space: acquisition or outright purchase, the transfer of development rights, or TDRs, and the purchase of development rights commonly used for the preservation of farmland, and finally conservation subdivisions.
I love coffee, I love tea, I love the Java Jive and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me.